Hello, this is Jamil again. This is the second part of the development environment setup section that we promised we're gonna do. So this will be the hands-on tutorial. So as a recap, in the first section, we went through the concept of how we create a BOSH VM, and we did that over, let's say, AWS, regular IaaS, and we did also over VirtualBox, which we call the BOSH-Lite. So this video is going to be the hands-on tutorial of how to create a BOSH-Lite environment, and it's going to be split up into multiple sections. So in this video, we're gonna follow the BOSH.io tutorial for creating the BOSH-Lite, as we can see here, step 1. And we will not explain in details all the steps that we're gonna follow. The objective is at the end of the video is that to have a real test environment set up on our machine. And then in the next video, which could be split into multiple as well, we're gonna go through each step of what we did in step 1, in section 1, and we're gonna explain in details what really happened. So it's gonna be like a top-down approach, more or less. And later on, we're gonna have a separate section to also a video to SSH into the director VM, which, if we remember, it's a VirtualBox VM, and then we're gonna SSH to that VM, and then we're gonna just explore around to see what are the software and processes running on it, and what is the regular structure of it. So that would be the agenda for, hopefully we're gonna follow it in the next couple of videos, including this one. And before we start, just there's a couple of warnings. You will see many credentials in this video, and those are auto-generated. We will see they will be auto-generated by the CLI, the BOSH CLI, and it's only for local testing, so they will be destroyed afterwards, so it's not a big deal. Also, another warning, which is personal, I type slowly, so I'll be copy-pasting a lot. Sorry about that, but that's the way it is. So let's get started. First, let's go to the BOSH.io website. You just can visit it, and let's go to the docs. And our objective, as we were saying, we're gonna just follow the steps here to create a BOSH-Lite VM. We will not go into the very detailed explanations of each test. We're gonna just cover a bit. That will be the later videos. So after we go to the docs, there will be something called install BOSH, and we're gonna click on the local machine, which is BOSH-Lite. So here you can see there's many sections, and you can see BOSH-Lite v2 is a director VM running on VirtualBox, typically locally, so this is what we covered before. And let's jump to the install section. So the first thing is probably you want to have a machine that can handle the VirtualBox VM. So with those specs, any modern regular machine probably should have it. The next step, we are gonna install the BOSH CLI. So if we click on it, there's a few steps here. You can download it and then install it. I already did that just to save time, so I will not go through it. Also, we're gonna install VirtualBox. I already also did that, so you can just follow the instruction on the VirtualBox environment, depending on your host. By the way, I'm doing this tutorial on a Mac OS, so it should be the same on Linux. On Windows, I personally haven't tried it. It should, the CLI is partially supported, but that's another discussion. So if you're using a Mac system, or if you're using a Linux, that should be okay to follow this tutorial. So after you install the VirtualBox, there's a couple of steps here. I would recommend to make sure that you follow them. It's just some technicalities for your VirtualBox network setup. Go ahead and do it. I already did it, so it's just following the steps just to save time. And here we go. So let's say all of those are done until step 3, and let's go to the install BOSH director VM. So you can see here that we are git cloning a specific repo into a specific directory. So let us see exactly what is that. Let's go there and see exactly what is that. So you can see this is just an open repo, and it contains, you can think about it for now, the configuration files that allow you to create a BOSH director with all the IaaSes that are possible. I think almost all of them that have CPIs for BOSH. We will go into details later videos, actually the next video, of what those YAML files mean, but for now we're gonna just assume that it will work. So let's go ahead here and let's clone it. So I'm gonna just I already cloned it, but I'll do it anyways. Oh, it already exists, so I already did it, so that should be fine. And I already made those directories, so that should be easy. Now what you need to do also is to follow this. There's 2 steps here. The details, also setting up the network for VirtualBox. I would recommend also to follow them. It should be also a technicality. It's not technically very BOSH related, but just it's going to take a couple of minutes. So after you finish those, the VirtualBox network setup, it will tell you, let's run this command. So let's take it. It's a very huge command. I will not go into details. What does it really mean? It's going to be the next video, but the gist of it is, if you remember, this is a BOSH create-env command. So remember, the create-env command will allow the creation of a director VM, and there's a couple of options here with many. It looks a bit overwhelming, but we will explain it in the next video. But the gist of it is, we are taking all those files and stitching them together to create a manifest that the create-env command will use. So imagine that we are just using all those to stitch them together, those YAML file, and then creating one big YAML file. We call it a manifest, and the create-env command will use it to create the VirtualBox VM, which is going to be the BOSH VM. So let's go ahead and copy it. And I already have it here. I created, so I already have it copied here. One thing that you noticed, here BOSH-Lite director, it has spaces in the name. I usually prefer to have underscore for a reason that we will later on, maybe in the next 5 videos, we're gonna explain it, and it's related to generation of variables, we call them. But for now, let's make underscore in the director name, and let's just run it. So let's go here, and I should have this. So you will see here that it's doing few steps. You can see that it says skipped many things because it's found in the local cache, because I already ran it before to save time, all this download. I will just cover quickly, like a quick explanation what's this, because in the next video we're gonna go through one line by line to see exactly what does it mean. You can see here it's downloading the create-env command, the CLI, it's the BOSH CLI, it's downloading few artifacts it needs, and we call them releases. So let's say you can see here it's downloading the VirtualBox CPI, which we talked about. It's downloading the Warden CPI that it's gonna install on the VM. It's downloading a few other things that it cares about. Also, it downloads a stem cell. We're gonna cover why it needs a stem cell at this point. And after that, here, as it's doing it's running, we can see that it's starting installing the CPI. So this CPI is the local CPI, if we remember from previous video, and this local CPI is the VirtualBox CPI, and this one will be the CLI will communicate with to create the VM. This one is starting registry. This one actually we don't care about. We will mention it later why we don't care about it for now. And then it's uploading the stem cell. We're gonna mention why it's uploading stem cell where. And let's see actually here what's happening. So you can see after it made the CPI ready, the virtual CPI, and it downloaded all the artifacts. Till now there's no VM created up until this point here. So all the artifacts are created. You can see that it's creating the VM at this line. So whenever it says it's creating the VM, in this scenario it's creating the VirtualBox VM, and that will be our BOSH VM. And then it says here waiting for the agent. We're gonna explain later what does that mean. and it's compiling a few packages, and you can see it's very quick. And it's not because the compilation is quick, it's because it's already compiled. And this is something we didn't cover yet, but it's something called compiled releases. So this, when we talked about the releases, we know that a release is just the packaged software together with some configuration. So there's another version of that release, which we call it a compiled release, and that means that whenever you deploy, you don't need to recompile it. Sorry, you don't need to compile it. It will be already compiled against specific stem cell. That will be another talk as well. And you can see it's very quick because it's it finished, and all the everything is done. So let's actually go here and then follow this one. So it's gonna say I'm gonna alias an environment. What does that mean is because we created a director somewhere, we want to alias it, and we're going to give it a name, and then we tell it that this director resides on this IP address, or it has this IP address. So we can just copy paste it and run it. So as you can see here that it says, yes, I aliased, I can contact this director. It's this version, it's using Warden CPI. So this is an important distinction. If you remember that for BOSH-Lite, the CPI that is installed with the director beside in the director machine, it's the Warden CPI, which is different than the VirtualBox CPI, which is installed on this machine here. And one thing we can talk about also is, let's say, user, which it will tell us I can contact the director. It's there, but you're not logged in. It's important to mention here also that BOSH is a multi-user system, so multiple users can use it at the same time. So the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna export this client name. So this one will be the username. There's multiple ways that you can log in. It's gonna be the easiest for now is to export this environment variable, and we're gonna copy paste this one as well. So this one will be the secret, and we'll explain a bit where is this secret coming from. What is this BOSH and creds.yaml? That will be in the next video. Maybe we'll cover it a bit also in this video. So let's do that. So now we have those. I'm gonna export one environment variable which is not in the tutorial, which will make our life easier. So I have it here. So I'm gonna install the environment. So since as a user, let's say you're using BOSH CLI, you can target multiple BOSH directors at any point of time. So it's not only necessary one, and you can communicate with X number of directors. So usually you alias each one to a different name. As you can see here, we aliased VBox, let's say, and we call it VBox. So to make it easy, every time you target a specific, or you say a command, you do a command for communicating with the director, you need to mention the environment. So you need to mention -e by exporting, not this one, by exporting this environment variable. You're saying that in this session, I'm gonna just talk to this director. So we're exporting this. So let's go to BOSH, and one command that we're gonna learn today is BOSH-env, which is tell me the status of my connection. And you can see here now it's the same as output as this, except now it will tell us that you're user admin and you're already logged in. So let's actually type one of the commands. Let's say BOSH, BOSH releases. It will tell us there's no releases that you have in this director. We will go through many commands later. Don't worry about like knowing all the commands now. But as you have seen, we have a director running. It's the VirtualBox VM, and it's only on our local machine. We didn't go create any accounts anywhere. And it's much easier now that we have this environment set up to explain what happened when we created this environment with all those steps here. What does that mean, all these steps? And whenever we log in, what does that mean? So before maybe we finish, let's actually go to the VirtualBox GUI, and then you can see that there's actually a VM running, and then this is our VM, and this is the actual BOSH director VM that we have just created. I should have shown before that there was no VMs, and whenever we started, there was nothing, and then now it created, but I forgot. But this is your VM the BOSH director VM that is running, and it's running at this IP address, the one that we are targeting, which is 192.168.50.6. In the next video, we're gonna go through each of those steps and explain what happened, like what does it really mean, and also we're gonna explain for this command, that command that created the BOSH director, what does it mean and what each line means. So I'll see you in the next video.